Welcome to Let's Talk Jets Radio.
What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's Talk Jets with the Fan Series. We're interviewing fans, discussing what the life of a fan is like. Kevin Ramos, what is up, my friend? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Tyson. It's great to be on the show. I got some good stories for you. I've been a Jets fan now for 40 years. Ooh. So I got stories for you, good and bad, and a couple ugly ones too.
So what made you a Jet fan?
Well, originally I'm from Puerto Rico. So back in 1981, when I was about 5 years old, we moved up to New York City. So back then the Jets were better than the Giants, quite frankly. You had Todd and Wesley Walker and Gastineau, the New York Sack Exchange. Back then the Giants, all they had was Lawrence Taylor, and we all saw how he ended up. He had a pretty decent career. And back then their coach was Ray Perkins. Yep. And they had a kicker named Ali Haji Sheik. That's how far back I go. But to go back a little further, the first game I ever watched was not a Jets game. It was actually Super Bowl 16 between Cincinnati and San Francisco. Now, keep in mind, I was 6 years old. So
that's Boomer Esiason, right?
No, actually, that was
Kenny Anderson. Right.
That was the first Super Bowl in Pontiac, Michigan.
Okay.
And so all I remember was Ken Anderson, Earl Cooper, who was number 49 for the 49ers, yep. And then Joe Montana, obviously. So a few months later, the 82 season kicked off, and I think the first Jets game I saw, I want to say it was a preseason game, and I want to say it was against the Packers. But back then, I'm sure they've never kept preseason records, so Joe, don't hold that against me. But I would read the papers, and all I heard was Gastineau, Klecko, Marvin Powell, Dan Alexander, Richard Todd, and so on, and I was hooked. And I remember one game I saw, they lost to the Dolphins on a last-second field goal, and that's kind of where the hatred for the Dolphins began, so to speak. And then you fast forward to the AFC title game and AJ Effendewey and the whole Mud Bowl deal, and I literally cried that day because at that year it was them and the Dolphins, and then in the NFC it was the Redskins and the Cowboys. Yep. And the Redskins had the Hogs with John Riggins and that offensive line. A heck of a team. That was a heck of a team.
Yep.
Did
you go to games back then or no?
No. I've only been to one game.
One game.
I've only been to one game out here. I live in Oklahoma now.
Okay.
But we went to Kansas City in 2016. Finally got to see. I saw that Ryan Fitzpatrick 5 interception game. 6. But I'm sorry. That's how bad it was. But I was happy for the experience because after 30 plus years of being a fan, I enjoyed the city. I enjoyed Kansas City. I didn't have any problems. No, none of the fans were disrespectful or anything like that. I do remember there was a guy there with a Raider shirt on. I'm like, dude, you got a Death Wish on you or something like that?
It's dangerous.
But the museum. The stadium is great. They have this museum where they have these little blocks and they explain like every Kansas City Chiefs game from 1960 to like 1998. So on one side you have the box score, then you have a picture, and then you have like a headline.
Right.
And then they've got this pantheon where they have a bus, kind of like the Hall of Fame of Kansas City Chiefs greats. And then they have the Hall of Fame area where there's Hank Stram and Dawson and Montana and Marcus Allen. Then a little further on the side, they had this long table with a whole bunch of old Kansas City Chiefs players. And I remember seeing Nick Lowry, who was their kicker way back when. And that was the day that they retired Tony Richardson's number. Well, they didn't retire his number, but they put him in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. So it was a great experience. And that stadium is as loud as advertised.
Yeah, and like the Packers are the same way. They have like a litany of history with it. It's a great organization where you go there. It's like they have their Hall of Fame. They have all these memories all along. Like you're surrounded by NFL history, man. So they do a really good job with that. So now you go through the 80s with the Jets, which, they had the Ken O'Brien. Like, I have a question for you, though. Do you remember Ken O'Brien playing at all or no?
Yes. I remember particularly that 1986 season. They started off 1-1. They had the 9-game winning streak. Yep. They had the 5-game losing streak. And on NBC, Paul McGuire kept picking against the Jets week after week after week after week. He picked against them the whole 9-game winning streak. He picked against them the whole 5-game losing streak. And there was one game they played the Colts, and I think the Colts were winless. And he was surrounded by Jets fans, and he picked the Colts to get their first win. He almost got his ass beat on live TV.
So now the one thing is interesting because I remember that season very well as well. And then, Kenny O'Brien got hurt. Pat Ryan comes in. He wins the playoff game and everything else. Now, what is your assessment of Kenny O'Brien? Because I think a lot of Jet fans say, you know what, we could have had Dan Marino, but he was actually a very good quarterback, man. He got the shit beat out of him because he got sacked like 10 times a game and took a pounding. But I thought he was a good quarterback, man.
I agree. He was basically, like you said, getting sacked all the time. He was David Carr before David Carr.
Yes.
And I don't care who you are. The offensive line in all my years of watching football is the bread and butter of football. Yeah. I mean, you look at Mark Sanchez. Look, say what you want. He played great in the playoffs. Give him that. But that offensive line that he had with DeBrickashaw, you had Slauson, you had Nick Mangold, you had Alan Faneca, Brandon Moore, and Damian Wood. That was the best offensive line in football. Yeah. And so Rex Ryan was smart. Hey, ground and pound with Thomas Jones and LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Green. I mean, you couldn't go wrong.
Yeah, so Kenny O'Brien took a beating, man. But then, so then you look at that, though. But he also had some all-time great Jet players that, over the years they get forgotten. But I don't think we realize how good they actually were, like Wesley Walker and Al Toon. I mean, Wesley Walker was speed before speed, and Mickey Schuler. Al Toon was so good too. He did a lot of monster hits, though. But it was like they were phenomenal players, man.
They were phenomenal, but unfortunately, like you said, that offensive line was terrible, and at times the defense, that secondary in the '80s, was awful. Dan Marino shredded that secondary. It was time after time after time.
So then Joe
Walton was okay, God rest his soul, but he wasn't that guy. He wasn't that dude.
So you talk about, you have Walker, you have Toon, you have Mickey Schuler, but then one of the players that I admire so much was Joe Klecko, man. And Joe Klecko, the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame now is complete nonsense. It's just politics. It's just because the Jets aren't like a legitimate, all-time organization. You go to the Hall of Fame now. If you're a Steeler, 49er, Cowboy, Packer, Chief, you're going to get in. If you're a Jet, you got to be above and beyond to get in. That's why Joe Klecko's not in, which is a crime. But share some insight on him, man.
You know what? Unfortunately, I hate to say this. He's going to get in, but I think it's going to be after he passes away, unfortunately. Yep. I think they're just going to milk it until he passes. And then they're going to have this grand, elaborate ceremony. Oh, well, we didn't recognize his greatness. And it's sad. But I really think that's what's going to end up happening with him.
And he was so tough, man. He played through injuries. I mean, he was with an all-pro, 2 or 3 different positions. I mean, he did it all.
I remember the year that he got hurt against New England. He missed the 82 season. Because I remember they kept showing that play. I don't remember who he was going up against, and he busted up his knee. I think it was I don't know if it was a hit or it was the AstroTurf, because I know the Patriots played on AstroTurf back then. And they showed that replay over and over and over again. And who knows what would have happened if Joe Klecko had been healthy for that 82 season. Yeah, that would have been a great Super Bowl matchup. The Hogs against the New York Sack Exchange. Man. Yeah,
no. So then you go through the 80s, then you go into the 90s, and then the Jets. It was a rough time, man. Like I said, you had the Bruce Coslett era. You had
and then there was the Rich Kotite era.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is because I remember the whole Pete Carroll season where they hire him like this young, innovative guy. He's playing basketball with his team and all this other crazy stuff. But you had the meltdown, the fake spike against Dan Marino. Then the Jets completely collapsed after that because I was there and it was like, dude, that stadium was electric, man. We're like, this is our time. Like, here we come. And it was like once they blew that game, the air was just let loose, man. Like they completely fell apart. They lost the rest of the games. And I'm like, all right, you know what? It's a young coach. You're gonna figure it out, but you're close. Like you figure you're almost there. And I'll never forget. This is when you relied on sports radio. You listen to Mike and the Mad Dog, you listen to WFAN, and you're like, the Jets are firing their coach after 1 year. I'm like, what?
Incredible.
And I'm like, all right. I'm like, this is bad, but how bad could it be? And they're hiring Rich Kotite from the Eagles, who was losing there. They was getting run out of town there. And the speech was, what was it, Leon Hess? I'm 80 years old and I want to win now. I'm like, you want to win now, but you're hiring a coach that's getting run out of Philadelphia. And that was my first year as a season ticket holder. I was so excited to get season tickets. That's my first year. Dude, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the hiring. I'll never forget the mess the team became.
You know,
it was awful.
I was really hyped up about getting Pete Carroll back in '94. And what made it so bad, they had just won a big game in Minnesota the week before to go 6-5. And my friend Mick and I, we were hooping and hollering on the phone. We were doing the Jets chant over the phone. I went to my friend Chris's house that weekend, and Dan Marino did the fake spike, and you could just see the air just go out of the stadium. And I know you said you were there. Pete Carroll got a raw deal. I really think if they had given him 2-3 years, I really think he could. He just seemed like he was that guy, and they were getting it going. They were a couple pieces away, and he never got a chance. And I remember when they hired Kotet, I'm just like, of all the people you could have hired,
unbelievable.
You could have brought back Bruce Coslett. I would have been okay with that, or Walt Mike.
And the thing was, like, the Jets were searching for an identity then, man. There was no, I mean, because they're always like, the Giants were winning, the Jets weren't. You know, the Giants had Parcells, the Jets. We were just like this team that was trying to find themselves. You bring in Kotite, and then they spent crazy money. They brought in Neil O'Donnell. They brought in Jumbo Elliott. They brought in the other tackle that got hurt with the bad back. I forgot what his name was.
He needs to be forgotten.
Yeah, so. but they spent all this money, and you go into the '96 season, and they were horrendous. And they got Keyshawn Johnson, obviously the first pick in the draft. But it was awful, dude.
I got a story about the '96 season. I was in the Navy back then. I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. So they were the second-year expansion team. They got to the AFC title game, and you talk about
Tom Coughlin.
Exactly, and you talk about being a Jets fan, going 1-15, and I'm still wearing my Jets gear proudly.
Yep.
That was the worst year of my life. I caught so much hell. And then I remember they started off 0-5. Neil O'Donnell was getting, and I'm going to go like this, getting hurt.
Yep.
Okay. And then there was one game, and I know you said not too long ago that you were at that game. It was against the Oilers.
Yep.
At the Meadowlands, and it was raining and whatever. And he slipped in warm-ups. He slipped on the end zone turf, and they carried him off. I'm watching it on the news. I'm like, okay, how do you slip during warm-ups and hurt yourself?
Yep.
And then Houston just destroyed him.
Eddie George. Yep. And I'll never forget, because we're sitting there. It's like there was maybe 25,000 fans there. You have season tickets. It's raining. It's cold. The team is terrible. And you're watching O'Donnell. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, don't tell me he's hurt warming up. Like, he's just dropping back to pass. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, this guy is mailing it in. He doesn't want to deal with it. And then after that, it was just
somewhere back then, Keyshawn Johnson may have made a comment. Maybe I don't know if it was in his book, but he said that there was part of him that thought Neil was faking it. Yep. If I ever get to meet Keyshawn Johnson, I will ask him, hey, listen, it's been 30 years. Was Neil O'Donnell faking some of his injuries, most of his injuries, or all of his injuries? Because he disappeared that year. And going into '97, when Bill Parcells came in, that first game, I got out of the Navy, I went back to Puerto Rico, and I remember watching the first game of the Parcells era against the Seahawks.
Yep.
So I go to this sports bar. It's packed. And I'm the only Jets fan there. I didn't have my Jets gear on because I was too ashamed because they had been 1-15 the year before. So I remember O'Donnell drops back to pass. He throws a bomb to the player named Jeff Graham, who had played with him before. He had come from Chicago.
Yep.
He throws a touchdown bomb Neil O'Donnell looked like a star that day. And I remember yelling at the top of my lungs, Jets, 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 Jets. Now keep in mind, they just went 1-15.
Yep.
This place is packed. Everybody turns around like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah. There's a Jets fan here. And there was another dude there. He was like a Seahawks fan. And I mean, the Jets were laying. They were laying
3 or something like that.
They beat them. I mean, they were laying the wood. And every touchdown, I'm going Jet. People were trying to buy me drinks. Like, you're a Jets fan here. Have another beer, dude.
Yep.
And that's the thing that always bothered me about Neil O'Donnell. If he had committed himself to the cause, so to speak, who knows what could have happened? And I heard that him and Parcells weren't getting along.
Yep. Yeah, he wasn't a Parcells guy.
And then Glenn Foley came in, and then Glenn Foley, he won the Ravens game, and he won in a couple other games. Yep. What hurt the Jets in '97 was they couldn't win games in the AFC East.
Yep.
They were 2-6 in the AFC East, ended up finishing 9-7. They was beating the brakes off of the NFC Central. But I remember this one home game against the Colts. They really pissed me off. Oh. The Colts were like 1-9 or 0-9 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man,
That's
and then
disgraceful.
that last game, I was listening on the radio. Barry Sanders got the 2,000 yards, and the Jets were out of the playoffs. And you're thinking, man, what could have been? What could have been
that year? But I guess the one most important thing out that year was, the hiring of Bill Parcells was monumental for the organization.
Yes, it was,
because we were at the bottom of the NFL. I mean, we were rock bottom, worst team in football, worst coach. Roster was out of shape and undisciplined. The quarterback didn't care. He just didn't care. He was not. Neil Donald wasn't made for New York. Plain and simple. He just he got it. I think it's like at that point it was like 5 years, $25 million. I think it's something like that, which was huge money at that point.
Yes, it was.
He got his money and he started losing. He started cashing. He's like, you know what? And that's when the whole Keyshawn thing erupted, which is exactly right. Keyshawn was like, dude, this guy doesn't want to play here. Parcells comes in, and dude, everything changed overnight. It was like instant credibility, instant respect. The players were on notice. The locker room was on notice.
It showed in the first game too. That first game, 41-3 in Seattle, and they sent a clear message. And then, if you remember, a couple of weeks later was the big Monday night game when he went back to New England, and he really wanted to beat New England, and they ended up losing in overtime. And you could see Bill Parcells you could see he had tears in his eyes, like he really wanted to stick it to the Patriots that year. But he was able to stick it to the Patriots the next year by getting Curtis Martin. Right,
but the whole thing was, though, is like it was a time where it was like after really, the demise of Pete Carroll, the 2 years of Kotite, you are proud to be a Jet fan again. Like you're like, this team is now competing again. You know what I mean? Like even though they fell short in the Detroit with the heartbreaker with the Leon Johnson pass and all the other stuff, but it was like, dude, you were like, you know what? We have something to believe in now. We believe in the coach. We see now. This was his first year. We see what he can do. Like we know that we can actually win football games, and we can actually have a coach that can actually outcoach somebody. Then you go in the second year where they take off, and that year was the most memorable year of my life. I will never forget it. And it's like that was the team where week in and week out, you're like, dude, this team is the best team in football. Like this team can win a Super Bowl, right? Like you're going in. Vinny Testaverde was playing at a ridiculous level. Parcells, I'll never forget when they traded for Kevin Mawai. I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're gonna give Kevin Mawai all this money for a center.
I loved it.
But like then you're like, what do you Kevin Mawai? Who is this guy? A pivotal move for the organization, right? Monumental. You get Curtis Martin. You get
hold on. We get Vinny Testaverde, and quite frankly, that was the one I was upset about because Glenn Foley had been doing okay. Yeah, I'm like, why are you getting Vinny Testaverde? He has failed. He's flunked in Tampa. He's been terrible. Yep. I owe Vinny Testaverde an apology because they started off 0-2. They lost to the 49ers in overtime. They lost to the Ravens. Yep. Parcells switches to Testaverde, and they took off. And what a year Vinny Testaverde had. He was a candidate for MVP that year.
Yes, he was.
It was between him, Randall Cunningham, and Terrell Davis.
Yep.
And I think Terrell Davis ended up winning the MVP.
He had like a huge year though. And Testaverde's numbers, I think he only had like 29 touchdowns, like 7 interceptions, something like that. But like also you had like Curtis Martin on the team. You had it, so you didn't have to go like Air Testaverde. But it was like the team was so good, man. And like
I remember
good.
I remember they were playing at New England, and they were up 3, and it was late. They were at midfield, so I'm thinking, okay, run the ball. You got Curtis Moore, run the ball, kill the clock. And so Vinny drops back to pass, and he throws a bomb. I'm like, what are you doing? And Dedrick Ward catches that touchdown on the sidelines and runs in. I was like, okay, you know what? You guys know what you're doing. I don't. Yeah. Hey, awesome. And then later on that year, they were playing at Miami, and they're battling the Dolphins. And I think it was Sean Ellis that stripped Dan Marino and Chad Cascadden picks up the ball. Listen, I was creaming my pants that day. I was loving it. That was one of the best days of my life right there. We to sweep the Dolphins after all the years that they just
it's like
embarrassed. Dan Marino just killed the Jets time after time after time.
But it was like a different team, a different mindset. And then they go to Buffalo. They clinched the AFC East to Buffalo. The Dedrick Ward, another big pass to him. And it was like, wow, like when you think like in our conservative mind, you're like, oh, he's gonna run the ball, he can do it. They would air it out. And like and we would always think of Testaverde like an interception guy. But that year, dude, he was money all the time, dude. It was just money. And then so you clinch the AFC East. The home playoff game is another day I'll never forget. The Jacksonville Jaguar home playoff game was just like the
Now
Jets.
I got a question for you though.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you had the 97 season. They didn't make the playoffs. Do you think maybe the going back to the original logo and original uniform had kind of something to helped out, kind of change the identity of the Jets at that particular time?
Well, they went to that was like a new school logo with
The
Parcells.
new old 1968, more modern.
He had a mission, man. He knew that there was a lot of stench around the Jets, and it's just like we have new mindset, new era, new look, like everything. Just change it all. Let's start fresh, and that's what he did, man. Every facet of the team was changed, you know.
And even though they got Curtis Martin, I was kind of surprised because Adrian Morrell was not. Yeah. He was not that bad.
Yep.
But that turned out to be one of the best, if not the best, free agent signing in the history of the Jets.
Well, the thing was,
the trade to get Curtis Martin.
The thing was, but like I said the same thing. I was actually at an autograph signing with Adrian Morrell when it happened. There's literally a line of Jet fans. He signed away, and they trade for Curtis Martin. You're like, dude, you're not going to be a Jet anymore.
Wow.
He was coming up 1,000-yard year too. He had like a 1,000-yard rushing season, and it's like, wow. But then it's like, all right, why did Parcells do it? And he was legitimately one of his guys. Like Curtis Martin's mindset, his approach, his work ethic, his physicality, like everything he brought, his leadership, the respect. Like you didn't realize it at first, but then you saw what the impact was of guys like Moai, Curtis Martin, but also guys like Mo Lewis. Like I think the Jets had pieces under Rich Kotite. They just were nobody cared. Like there was no like discipline, no accountability. But then when Parcells came, you had the Mo Lewises, even Brian Cox, who had a big impact. Like all these guys had played pivotal roles.
Brian Cox was pivotal. I hated Brian Cox when he was with Miami. Remember, he going into Buffalo and flipping off the fans when Buffalo was in their prime. But he was that guy.
Yep.
He gave the Jets an edge that they hadn't had, and quite frankly, he was the best replacement for Kyle Clifton.
Yes,
because Kyle Clifton retired after the stench of the Kotite era, and Brian Cox was that dude. The one guy I just couldn't get into was Otis Smith. Oh,
he was hit or miss, man.
Oh no, he was miss. He
had the 1 year. He had like what? How many interceptions did he have? He had like a huge amount of interceptions.
That was 97. Yeah. But even then, I remember going further into 98 with the AFC title game. They're introducing the players. So you got Brian Cox, and they're introducing Jason Ferguson and Mo Lewis. I'm cheering everybody till they get to Otis Smith.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they're up 10-0, and he blew the coverage.
It was Victor Green did too, man.
Yeah, and then it was all downhill from there. And I always kind of blame Otis Smith. I know Keith Byers fumbled, and then Keyshawn didn't. He should have dove instead of.
Dave Meggett fumbled freaking kickoff,
and then Van Dyke did his thing and whatever. Yeah. But I still kind of blame Otis Smith for that. So he's not one of my.
But the other thing that bothered me too is right before the half, they had a chance to get a touchdown. But then they block a punt or something like that.
Yes,
and they settled for the field goal instead of going for a touchdown there. I forget the specifics, but it was something like that. And I was like, you know what? That's an opportunity here, man, where you could blow this game wide open. Like you can really get out of it, and they didn't. And that game still haunts me because that's for the best team in football.
Yeah, and then they interviewed Joe Namath at halftime of that game. I'm like, now do you believe that urban legend that supposedly he sold his soul to the devil to win Super Bowl III, and the Jets won't win another one until he dies? Which it's getting me. He's 75. Like okay, bro.
I don't know what it is, man. The Jets just have so much unfortunate luck. So they fall apart that year. So then I'm like, you know what? 1999 is our year. There's no doubt about it. This is the best team in football coming off a bad loss. That knowing Parcells, it's like taking another step. This is their year. We go into the home opener, fired up, beautiful sunny day, 90 degrees.
And then
Testaverde goes down. And dude, you could have heard a pin drop. So the minute Testaverde went down, I leave my seat. I'm like, I'm going to get beer because I'm definitely not doing this shit sober. I go down and get 2 beer, and the guy that I know, the one security guy, is like, dude, he's gone. He's out for the year. I'm like, what? Yeah.
As soon as he fell, I knew. Like, and I just, this is how I sat there like this the rest of the game. Like,
yep.
Because keep in mind, John Elway had just retired.
Yep.
So you knew the Broncos weren't going to get back, even though they had Terrell Davis. They went in the tank quick. No one was standing in the way of us winning it. Mm-mm. And when he hurt, and then to this day, they got off to that 1-6 start.
Yeah,
they had Rick Meyer, who was terrible. I stand by this. What I'm about to say. If Ray Parcells had put in Ray Lucas about 1 or 2 weeks early, the Jets would have snuck into the playoffs, and who knows what would have happened.
Because they were playing great. They were 6-2 down the stretch.
Right. They were 1-6, and they won 6 out of their last 8 or something like that.
Yep.
And then they lost that game to the Colts.
Yep.
Where it was like 4th and 18, and Ray Lucas throws that bomb. And if Wayne Corbett had just hung on, would have gone to overtime. They would have beat the Colts too. And that would have got them to 9-7. They would have snuck in, and who knows what would have happened from there.
It would have been a tough team to beat, man, because they were playing so well. They all bought in under Ray Lucas. They were so inspired. Yes. They were playing smart. So then you go from that, and then Parcells leaves, which was so disappointing, man, because to me it was unfinished business, where it was like, you know what? And it's always like, I know it was the ownership change and everything else. Woody Johnson's coming in, but it was like, dude, like, you can't leave now. The whole Belichick thing happened, whatever. Al Groh comes in, and he's in a tough spot, man, because he's trying to be a disciplinarian like, Parcells was, but he's kind of unproven. And, there was rumors that he worked his team too hard and whatever else.
I heard that too.
Yeah, and then
it was a veteran team, and he was practicing them too.
He's grinding them, man. And it's like, so then they all of a sudden fall up short too at the end of the year too. And it's like, oh.
Well, except for the Monday Night Miracle. You got to give him that.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
I was leaving to go to boot camp the next day. So that was going to be my last game. I'm over here like, oh my God, the Dolphins are killing the Jets. This is, I might as well go to boot camp now. I can't do this. And then next thing you know, they start clicking. And then of all people, Jumbo Elliott makes that pass. Oh, I was freaking loving it.
You know what the funny thing about that game is that we had seen we're there, and in the third quarter, the Jets getting their doors blown off, right?
Yes.
So and we were sitting like, we're not going to leave now, and the reason why we didn't want to leave because everybody else was leaving, and there was going to be traffic.
Okay.
Like, we don't want to sit in traffic because like the stadium was emptying out, man. So we're sitting there. My buddy's like, all right, we'll stay till the fourth quarter and see what happens. And you're sitting, you're like, wait a minute. This is weird. Like, maybe they're going to come back. My buddy's like, dude, you drank way too much, man. There's no way they're coming back. You're out of your mind. And it was incredible. And it's like moments like that make you feel good. They try to overcome the bad moments we've had.
And the crazy part was they tied it at 30. Yep. Jay Fiedler throws the bomb. I think it was O.J. McDuffie.
Yes, it was.
And I'm like, oh, here we go again. And it didn't matter.
Well, Marcus Coleman intercepted the pass and then fumbled it. Remember that?
Say that again?
Marcus Coleman had an interception, then he fumbled
That's right.
it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then didn't Thurman Thomas, didn't that happen to him later on in that game? Because he played for the Dolphins that year.
Yeah, it was all kinds of wild.
Yeah, that was one of the wilder games in all my years watching the Jets.
So then you go from the Al Groh era, which was ended in disappointment. Yep. And then you got Herman Edwards, man, who was an interesting coach. You're looking back at it, like he's actually a good coach for the Jets. I mean, obviously he ended up leaving, going to Kansas City, but like his tenure wasn't bad because you had the whole Chad Pennington experience, which was
great.
You had a transition over. You went Testaverde back and forth. Then you needed a quarterback. You drafted him in the first round, but you didn't know what the kid was. Just good, man. He was like a good person on and off the field, a natural leader. Everybody gravitated to him. Give some thoughts on Chad Pennington.
Well, before that, I want to give a thought on Herman Edwards. I remember when he had his introductory speech.
Oh, yep.
And he leaves the podium and starts talking. He's not like a preacher that day. And I hadn't been to church in months. I'm like, I'm going to church Sunday, dude. This guy got me up and running. Chad Pennington loved him out of Marshall. Yep. I thought he was in a great situation. Not great arm strength, but up here.
Yep.
Just football IQ, a legend, no doubt. He's one of the legendary.
But his arm strength before the injuries was fine, dude. Like his arm strength was good enough, and then the shoulder injuries. But like coming out, it was good. It was just a matter of just getting him comfortable. They had pieces around him, which was good. It's funny you said about Herman Edwards though, because he made a speech the one time that got me all fired up, and he was talking about sweeping a room, and he's like, when you sweep a room, he's like, you never cut the corners. He's like, when you sweep that room, because you go to every corner and get every piece of dust. He goes, you don't just, you don't go here, you get every corner. Because you know what? If you don't, that dust in the corner slowly will blow back out into the middle of the room, and it's going to ruin your room. And I was like, dude, this guy had me all like, I was like,
is that speech on YouTube? It's got to be.
Dude.
Never heard.
Yeah, it was about sweeping a room. And he was like, if you don't get every corner, if you do, like everybody sweeps the middle and the outside, because you got to get every little bit. Because if you don't get it, it'll blow back in the middle and your room's dirty again.
But the thing with Herman throughout his tenure, unlike Rich Kotite, you could tell that the players cared as soon as he walked through the door.
Yeah.
Like, and if you don't care, you was out of there.
Yep.
And that was the one that you could just see it in on the sidelines. Remember that playoff game in San Diego?
Oh,
that was wild. Remember, he almost got in a fight with the running backs coach. over Lamont Jordan and Curtis Martin switching, and boy, that was a wild football game right there.
That was the Eric Barton. That was the Eric Barton penalty too.
Listen, if the Jets don't win that game, that man would have had to walk back to New York.
Yep.
And we shit on Doug Bryan about missing the field goals.
Yep.
In Doug Bryan's defense, if it wasn't for him, we don't get to Pittsburgh in the first place because he won the game against San Diego that Eric Barton pretty much cost us. And if it wasn't for that, we talk about Mark Gastineau and the hit on Bernie Kosar and all that. What Eric Barton did with the forearm on Drew Brees' head, that was the 2000 version of that. So Eric Barton should be washing Doug Bryan's car and cleaning his house and sweeping all the corners of the room for the rest of it.
And it's funny you say it because, that's what I was thinking too. Like, you overcome this. Maybe it's a team of destiny now. You overcome this.
That was the thing about after that game, after that San Diego game, because that was a game, and this, you've been a fan about as long as I have. Those were games that the Jets always lost. It was San Diego was the better team that day. San Diego outplayed the Jets that day, but the Jets found a way to win a game that, quite frankly, they should not have won.
Yep.
And they outplayed the Steelers too. I remember Ben Roethlisberger was the rookie. He was like 14-0, and they had Jerome Bettis. Yep. They kind of got unlucky there at the end, but you're saying, you know what? This is it. This is that same old Jets. It's
turning.
I really thought that it had turned after that season.
Yeah, and it's just and then you have the whole Doug Bryan thing. It's you always it's in that big spot, the team they always find something just to mishandle it, or a mistake is made.
Right, but like I said, I'm really not gonna hold Doug Bryan.
No, he was.
I think he's gotten a bad rap. I mean, he's not. He hasn't gotten the bad rap that Mike Vanderchuk has gotten, or Scott Norwood, or not like that.
He didn't miss a chip shot. It was a tough spot in the wing.
I think Jets fans have been unfair to Doug Bryan. Like I said, that same foot that lost the game in Pittsburgh is the foot that got us there to beat San Diego.
Yep.
So
then you go from the whole Herman Edwards experience, which he's relatively successful, man, considering what he accomplished. He did that. So then you go to Rex Ryan,
Eric Mangini first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot Eric Mangini. So you bring in Mangini, which was a weird hire because you're who is this guy? He was unproven. He had the resume, but it's all right, a Belichick clone. This is what the Jets need. You need this strict, really football guy and everything else. And you're all right, how is this going to work out? It was a strange hire.
I was all for it. At that time, I said, you know what? Let's give the guy a chance. He's new blood. He's got new ideas. You didn't want to bring back Parcells. You didn't want to bring Marty Schottenheimer.
Yep.
You didn't want to bring back guys that have been coaching since the 60s. At that point in 2006, let's get somebody that's never been a coach with new thought process, new ideas. Listen, let's give Eric Mangini credit. He drafted DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
Yes, he did.
He drafted Nick Mangold. He drafted Dustin Keller. He brought in David Harris, drafted him. He drafted Jarrell Revis.
Yep.
If you want to be honest, he built the team that Rex Ryan took to two AFC.
Absolutely.
Eric Mangini built that team.
He did.
Rex Ryan didn't build a damn thing.
Yeah, well, and also
now he brought in Bart Scott and Sean Green and Sanchez, but that core of that team, Eric Mangini built that.
Well, and then the thing is Eric Mangini is one Favre injury away from being, that team with Favre there, dude, was probably one of the best teams when they were 8-3.
They were 8-3.
Beat the Patriots, beat the Titans, or I think it was Titans, and you're wow, this team is on fire, man. They're easily the best team in football. Mm-hmm. Favre gets hurt, doesn't tell anybody, and the play. They were 8-3. They ended up 9-7, I think, right? And it was an embarrassing fashion. They lost the game in Seattle when Sean Ellis just throwing snowballs in the crowd. And it was the offense was awful, and it was man, and this was, and Mangini was he was forced. He didn't want Favre. He was a Pennington guy. He didn't even want him. He inherits him, has the team there. Favre falls apart, and then he fire him, which was dude, that's he got a real raw deal, dude.
Yeah, he got the same raw deal that Carroll got.
He sure did.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. But then comes Rex Ryan.
Yep.
And
that think about
all
it.
You
liked Herman Edwards' press conference. I'll never forget listening to Rex Ryan's press conference. I was ready to tackle walls. I was bound. I'm this is it. We are back. I was bummed out about the Mangini things. I like Mangini. I'm we're close. And then you run Chad Pennington out of town. You have Favre. It's like this is a mess now. But Rex Ryan comes in with that speech, and like, dude, you're like, wow, I'm proud to be a Jet fan. I want to fight anybody. Like, I'm ready. Like, It was amazing, man.
Yeah. And then of course they draft Sanchez. I thought Sanchez was. I thought at the time he was the right pick because Rex was talking about ground and pound.
Yep.
So okay, you're not going to have Mark Sanchez throwing 50 times a game.
Yep.
Then going into that season, they trade for Braylon Edwards.
Yep.
Which was a great trade.
Yep.
That ended up being great. So you got Keller, you got Jericho Cotchery, you got Braylon Edwards, but then you had the problem of the defense because a lot of people forget Chris Jenkins got hurt, and Chris Jenkins had been a Pro Bowler. Yep. He got hurt both of those years, and when he got hurt, the Jets had no pass rush.
Nope.
No pass. They was getting their pass rush from their linebackers.
Yep. And
ultimately, that's what cost them those AFC title games. It wasn't Mark Sanchez. It was the defense.
Well, especially,
I'm not saying that Mark Sanchez lit it up or anything. I'm not saying that. We get it. He didn't throw for 400 yards or anything like that. He was awesome against the Patriots.
Yep.
He outplayed Tom Brady clearly, but that defense is the reason the Jets lost those AFC title games. They were up 17-6 against the Colts towards the end of the first half, and then Bart Scott blew a coverage, and then Peyton Manning became Peyton Manning. The second AFC title game against Pittsburgh, I don't know what the heck happened. They were down 17-0 before the national anthem.
Well, see, the thing is that, I mean, Sanchez did a lot of really good things, and Rex Ryan handled him smart, where it was like ground and pound, dominant offensive line play. He's like, I'm going to run the ball 40 times a game. I don't care what you think about it.
Right.
We're going to wear you down, play defense. So the Colt game, the Colt loss, I was there for that one too, was disappointing, but I'm like, you know what? All right, there's something to build on here.
Yes.
Like, right? You buy into it, you see a lot of really good
things. It was
things.
one of them, like, to go with what you're saying, I wasn't really too upset about that AFC title game loss because, like, okay, I'm kind of happy to be there.
Yep.
And they didn't get the doors blown off of them.
Right.
Sanchez threw that bomb to Braylon Edwards, and he had to go. So you're thinking, okay, Mark Sanchez can play in the big games.
Yes.
And then he played pretty good against San Diego too the week before, and then he played really good. He outdueled Carson Palmer in the wild card game in Cincinnati. So like, okay, we got us a quarterback that can handle himself pretty well in the playoffs. He never looked rattled at any point. So to touch on what you're saying, we were happy to be there, but I was glad. I was like, okay, they got to the AFC title game. They got something to build on.
It's like a team to be proud of. Like, you're like, all right, we're a team with maybe potentially a franchise quarterback that was, a half away from the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next year, same thing where you see good and badass Sanchez. But again, the playoffs come, the kid plays money. They beat the Patriots, that, which is great. All these different things. But then you go into the Steeler game, but it's like, dude, the thing that bothers me the most is that the play before half, when Brian Schottenheimer called a pass play, where he kind of ran the clock out and just went into the half. He doesn't do that. He calls a passing play. Sanchez gets hit. I think he fumbles it.
Yes.
And then it was boom, 17. Like, it didn't have to be that way, because the second half, Rex Ryan must have broke 14 tables at halftime, because they came out like a team on a mission. Sanchez was probably one of the best players in the field in the second half, dude.
Totally.
Like, he gets the ball one more series, Jets go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't get that pass play at the end of the first half. You got Wayne Hunter, the human turnstile. Terrible. He just sat there and let the guy just bowl through Sanchez.
Yep.
And to touch on what you said earlier, I will take this to the grave. I still say the defense cost the Jets those two AFC title games. Yep. If they had gotten that stop on third and 6 and 3rd and 8,
yep.
I'll take this to the grave. Mark Sanchez, the Jets get the ball back.
Yep.
It might have been an 80-yard drive order. Mark Sanchez with Braylon Edwards and Santonio Holmes and Tomlinson. They go down the field with Dustin Keller. They go down the field 80 yards, and it would have been the Jets and the Packers in the Super Bowl. And I will take that to the grave.
Absolutely. 100%. I completely agree. Sanchez was playing. He was literally one of the best players on the field, man. He was he was just rolling. I'm like, this is the kid. This is our guy.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is after that loss to the Steelers, it's been all downhill, man. Like, think about it. Like,
yeah.
Like when you look back at like Mark Sanchez's career, I say, you know what? He started out strong. He was in the right situation, and I think it was a combination of the Jets failed him.
Totally.
They failed
Here's
him.
the first one. The first thing was in that season, Braylon Edwards loved being a Jet, wanted to be a Jet, and they gave Santonio Holmes all that money. when Braylon Edwards specifically said, "Hey, I'm willing to take the hometown discount to stay with the Jets." You could have given Santonio Holmes maybe not $50 million, but you could have given Braylon Edwards some of that money. You could have kept both of them, and that's when it started going wrong. Right there.
Yeah, it was that. Then you
had a guy that Santonio Holmes. I don't think he was a Jet, so to speak. I didn't think he understood what it was like to be a Jet.
Nope.
Braylon Edwards understood what it was like to be a Jet. And when you lost Braylon Edwards, that was the first domino that started.
Yeah, then you had the whole Derek Mason, the Plaxico Burress, all the other shit. It was like you could just see, but you think about it, it's like you go from that to like the only highlight after that is the Ryan Fitzpatrick Todd Bowles year when they blow it in Buffalo. Like that's what's been
listen,
it's funny because you try to think about highlights over like, all right, the Rex Ryan thing ended disappointing, but it was like that was just like you made a perfect point, dude. Like Eric Mangini built that team, and then Rex Ryan and Idzik and all these guys slowly destroyed the roster. It was just
he did hit for a while with Muhammad Wilkerson, and he did hit with Sheldon Richardson.
Right.
But other than that, you're drafting D. Milner and Kyle Wilson and speaking of which, wait till Sauce Gardner gives up his first touchdown. The New York media is going to compare him to D. Milner and Kyle Wilson. That's a gimme. But it's like you go from that where like the whole demise of Rex Ryan, and then it's like you hire Todd Bowles, which okay, I mean he was the right guy. Like the Jets were they're a lost organization, man. They were just in disarray. So you hire Bowles and McCagnon at the same time, which was whatever. But you're thinking football guys, both respected, football guys making football decisions. Bowles has the good first year. And you're like, all right, they fall apart in Buffalo with the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing. Here's the thing about that Buffalo game. When that game was over, I literally felt like I got punched in the stomach.
Oh,
Buffalo didn't have LaShawn McCoy that day, who was their star player, right?
They had nothing to play for,
and they had nothing to play for. And then, I mean, I know Rex Ryan, was hyping on because he's coaching the Bills at that point. Yep. Fitzpatrick throwing interceptions here and there, but if Kimbrel Tompkins had just turned around and just put his hand out, he could have caught that Hail Mary. Yep. And the thing that frustrates me even more, they would have won that game, got to the playoffs. They would have played Cincinnati. That was an automatic playoff win because Marvin Lewis was coaching the Bengals.
Yep.
So you already know the Jets were going to win that game just by default. So then you got Todd Bowles, first year, gets to the playoffs, wins one playoff game at least, and then you build from there. But I think losing the Buffalo game, I think mentally, it kind of ruined Todd Bowles. Just kind of the way, if you go back to the 80s, the way the drive and the way the fumble, mentally Martin Schottenheimer could never get past that. And I think that's kind of what happened with Todd Bowles losing that Buffalo game. He started playing conservatively. Yeah. Todd Bowles coached not to lose, but lost anyway.
Yes, he would do.
That's what happened with him.
He would do things, man. It was like he'd be like 4th and 6 on his own 45, and late in the fourth quarter he's punting it. I'm like, how do you punt here?
Just and it was because of that Buffalo game.
Yeah, it was. And so you think about it because friends of mine.
Speaking of which, you were at the Buffalo game, weren't you?
Oh, dude, I was second row.
How bad was it after you left?
Second row behind the Jet bench, and the Kimbrel Tompkins pass was 10 yards from me. I almost wanted to jump over the thing and just start choking him because I'm like, how do you It was literally, dude, literally right there. Like we were actually on TV, but our heads down. We're like, you've got it. Yeah. Okay. So then, and the sad thing was, a lot of Jet fans went to that game. There was thousands of fans. The tailgate was awesome. We walked in loud and crazy, and there was we thought it was gonna be pretty much a party, man. Like we're gonna go clinch the playoffs in Buffalo against Rex Ryan. How cool is this gonna be? The Jets lose, and the walk of shame leaving that stadium was a miserable and warranted because we were jerks. We were loud and obnoxious. Dude, it was the worst feeling walking out of there. And then it gets worse. So it's like a 6-hour drive coming home. We hit a blizzard on the way home, an absolute blizzard. So it's just like,
so it was a 12-hour trip home, basically.
It's like, come on, man. Like that's life with Jet fan, man. Your expectations are here, and you end up there and stuck in snow. I'll
tell you what, the two worst experiences. Well, 3. That was one of them that watching at my home. The 2 worst ones were the AFC title game against Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Because I got my son was 3 at that point, so I'm hyping him up and all that, and then he just and then going back to the Mud Bowl in 1982. Those still, I've been carrying that one for 40 years.
Dude, it's
AJ freaking Dewey and Don Shula.
Yeah, but for me, the Denver game, the loss to Denver still stings because when you have 6 turnovers, man, that's not the team didn't beat you, you beat yourself. Like that
I get you. That one to me didn't sting that much because they were coming off a 1-15 year 2 years before. So I said, okay, they lost. Then you have the progress. The Vinny Testaverde injury was to me worse than the AFC title game. When Vinny went down, I'm like you. I thought we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. This is just the next step. And when he went down, I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like I said, I was like this the rest of the game. And don't get Tom Tupa. He played better than Rick Meyer. Tom Tupa was lighting up there for a little bit.
Yeah. So we had the Rex experience, Todd Bowles experience. Then you go to the Adam Gase experience, which was easily. Like, people ask me all the time, the question is, who is worse, Kotite or Gase? And my answer is Gase, because Gase ruined Sam Darnold. That's the way I look at it. He's
still whispering in his ear in Carolina.
Yeah, he has to be. But
he's still whispering stuff.
But what is your thought on that? Like, who would you say was a worse coach, Kotite or Gase?
Well, when did you start becoming a Jets fan?
85, 86.
Okay, I have to go with Kotite. Because of the one loss record, because Gase didn't. In terms of the impact on the organization, he pulled off 7 wins the first year, so to be fair, Kotite won 4 games in 2 years. So from a wins and losses record, Kotite is the worst. With Gase, you're right.
It's like Gase set the organization back 2 or 3 years, where Parcells came in. Kotite had the talent, just didn't do anything with it. Gase got our talent he had, just destroyed it. It was just,
Well, I think the thing that those 2 tenures have in common, at the end, nobody really cared.
Yep.
Because remember, I was watching you guys do the whole Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, and I remember watching the Rams. We were 0-13, and you and Kevin are in there, hoping that they would lose. Next year, they were beating the shit out the Rams. I'm like, wait a minute, no, we need Trevor Lawrence here. What the heck? That was almost as bad as Vinny busting his Achilles.
Oh, it's terrible.
Like this. And remember, a couple of weeks before, they gave up the touchdown to the Raiders.
Yep, we're celebrating that.
Right. I was watching that. So I'm watching your show, and I'm over. It was like a playoff game.
Yeah.
He hit a playoff.
Stressed out about it.
Hoping that they would keep losing and go 0-16. And then they beat Cleveland the next week. And that last game, I remember telling my wife, I said, if they end up winning this game against the Patriots, they might keep Adam Gase.
Yeah.
And I know you thought that. I'm like, oh well, they've won 3 in a row.
Yep, they rallied around them.
Yeah. I'm glad they lost that game. But I remember watching that game, and you could tell Sam Darnold, the look in his eyes. He was gone. Yep. He was gone. I would have been okay if they had kept him, but I understand the process of Robert Saleh coming in and wanting to start fresh with a new guy with Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. And so far, it's coming to fruition because look at Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he's
it looks like Carolina's already wanting to get rid of him after 1 year.
They're trying to get Baker Mayfield down there.
Right. So
now the Sam Darnold experience was unfortunate because we thought we had our franchise guy, Adam, like everything that could go.
I thought coming out of college, Sam I thought he was okay. But I didn't think he was it. He didn't have that certain it like Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck had it.
Well, he finished the season strong though.
But I thought he was okay. But I didn't see. I understood, and I mean, hey, look, he got drafted to the Jets. I was going to support him,
right?
But I never felt that like he was the guy. Then that Monday night game in Detroit, he first throw is a pick 6. I'm like, oh God,
welcome to the Jets.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. But then he turned out okay. I never thought he was the guy. I wasn't completely against him or anything like that, but I just didn't see.
Yeah, I liked him.
Right.
Once you drafted me, please just be the guy. We desperately need a franchise quarterback so bad. It doesn't go the way we hope. The Adam Gase experience happens. Sam's out. Gase is gone. So now here we are. So I guess the first question is, What are your thoughts on Joe Douglas?
What's there to say? He's taking the Jets in the right direction. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jamal Adams trade, he fleeced the Seahawks.
Yep.
Pretty much every move he's made has been with the intention of obviously getting the team to the Super Bowl. If you've watched that Flight documentary, I've seen the 3 episodes. Yep. You don't have to be a Jets fan to see that they're going in the right direction. Yep. They've got the right staff, the right scouts, and they're getting players of high character. What I love about this year, they got Jordan Whitehead, they got Uzoma from Cincinnati, they got Laken Tomlinson from San Francisco. You've got guys that have been deep into the playoffs and have been to Super Bowls. And these are the guys that are going to show this young team. You want to get to this is what you're going to have to do.
Because we've been there.
Yep. You don't believe me? I got a ring right here. I got 2 rings or whatever the case may be.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important. That's how you build a team. Going back to when Rex Ryan was – Alan Faneca had a ring.
Yep.
A lot of people forget he was on the Steelers team in, I want to say, 2005.
Yep.
So what you want to do, you want to have that group of young guys mixed in with a veteran that's
Damien Woody had rings too.
Correct. He had, I think, 3.
Yeah,
3 with the and then you put those guys in with Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Look at the offensive line that we had. It's the same deal here. You got the Whitehead and Uzoma and guys that have been to Super Bowls with Sauce Gardner and all these young guys on the team.
Yep. Well, that's going
to help Zach Wilson with the 2 new tight ends.
Well, they have like such a young, impressionable team, man.
Correct.
It's like they're all high character guys. They're all good guys, but a lot of them just don't know the NFL. They don't know what's going on. And now you bring in these veteran presence, these leaders, even a CJ Mosley, man. We're like, you know what? This is how you play the game of football. This is how you do it. This is the life in the NFL. You do it this way, it'll pay dividends because this is the way I can show you it's been done right. Like they could say, this is what we've done. Like Uzoma was just in the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
It's like that's so crucial. And Joe Douglas explaining that and Robert Saleh explaining it. This is our mindset. This is what we want. We want guys that love the game of football. And if you watch Flight 2022, every player says the same thing.
Same thing.
Hard work. Be the first guy.
Yeah, it's not like Rex Ryan and Idzik who are like, one's going over here and one's going over there.
They all bought in, dude.
Saleh and Douglas are on the same page, and they're getting players from other teams that are on that same page.
Yep.
They got players that want to be there.
Yep, exactly. And it's
not.
Yep.
And Saleh's getting. I really like DJ Reed. Love that. Love the signing.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a prediction. I think the Jets are gonna get a wild card spot this season.
Really?
They're gonna get I'm book it. You can book it, and you put my name on it.
So what record?
10-7, 9-8, 10-7. They're probably they'll get one of the last 2 playoff spots.
Okay, so
I'm not saying they're going to win a playoff game or anything like that, but I really think they're going to get to the playoffs.
I like
the AFC.
I like pretty much like everything they've done. But here's one question I have for you: is what do you think about this whole Mekhi Becton thing? Because it's a story. No matter if we want to say it is or not, it is because he came into mandatory minicamp, still not practicing, which I think is just wild at this point. That he's still at that point. It's obviously must be a weight issue, but do you think he ends? I think he ends up playing right tackle. To be honest,
I agree, and that's probably the best spot for him.
Yeah,
and I think they should just put Fan at the left tackle. Now they're switching off Laken and Vera Tucker, right? So Vera Tucker is going to play right guard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's fine. I think maybe by moving Becton to right tackle, you won't. There's not going to be a whole lot of chirping. Because let's be honest, you really don't. Right tackle is important.
Yeah,
but they're not on a right tackle's not on the spotlight like the left tackle is. So if they're going to move Mekhi Becton to right tackle, I'm all for it. Maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs some kind of to take the media pressure off him, give him some peace of mind, and then maybe in a year or 2 move him back to left. Yeah, but I think for this year, I think he needs to go to right tackle.
I agree. I think if you do that, you give Fant his extension, give him another couple of years on his contract, keep him happy, get Becton happy, then your line's intact, dude, because everybody's under contract. So then you're all set, minus McGovern, who, whatever, he can leave next year for all I care.
Is he going to be the starting center?
Yeah, he is now, yeah.
Well, hey, look, we got rid of Van Rotten, so.
That's true. So what are your thoughts? I mean, Salah right now is saying all the right things. He had a rough rookie year, I thought. I think the first half of the season, I think he was swimming like the rest of the team. Towards the end, I think he started to find himself in terms of how he wants to coach his team, how he wants to have his personality with the media and everything else. But now this year, it's like you have increased expectations, man. I mean, this is a year where like last year was like a rookie, like a redshirt year. Like you guys can lose, you guys can learn. We don't care. You're talking playoffs. I'm talking 7-8 wins. That's increased expectations in this market. How do you think Salah handles that?
I think he'll handle it well. I think he's going to meet those expectations. Like I said, my expectation is the 6th or 7th wild card spot. And I honestly think that's probably their expectations up at the top. After 12 years of not making the playoffs with all the talent that we've acquired, I think that's the expectation. And barring injuries, I know the AFC is loaded. I don't care. I think the Jets are going to win about 3-4 games that they, on paper, are not supposed to win. And I think they sneak into the playoffs. I really do. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and expect them to win, 4 playoff games and win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to go that far. Yep. But to go, you go from 2 wins under Gase, 4 wins, rocky, like you said, rocky season and all that. Yep. I think they make a big leap this year. I mean, look, Cincinnati went from 4-13 to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but why not? Why not us?
So then,
at least get a playoff spot.
But here's the pivotal question then, because I agree with you. I like the talent. Like when you do like roster evaluations and position analysis and all this stuff, like the Jets have pretty much upgraded every team on every spot on their roster. Like you can see literally every position group is better, and that's not even being like a Homer Jet fan. It's just facts.
Correct.
But it comes down to the quarterback, and Joe Burrow took the Bengals to high levels. Justin Herbert does all these things. Like all these young quarterbacks took that big step. Even Josh Allen with the Bills. What do you need to see out of Zach Wilson this year to have the Jets be a playoff team or even like a wild card team?
Just his confidence. It all starts and ends with him, obviously. Yep. But now he's got the pieces around him that he might afford to make a mistake, but one of the playmakers bails him out. But even with that, late in the game, he might throw a bad pass, a deflection. Uzomah gets it in, touchdown, Jets win the game. That's going to give him confidence. Okay, you know what? I messed up. We still got out of it. We still won.
Yep.
It's not going to be all on him, but, I'm not expecting him to throw for like 5,000 yards or anything like that. But in my opinion, just watching his rookie years and his struggles early and whatever, he has that look in his eye that Sam Darnold, in my eyes, never had.
Yes.
Absolutely right. You don't hear Zach Wilson talking about seeing ghosts.
Nope.
Okay. Sam Darnold was done at that point.
Yep.
For me.
Yep. Me too.
You don't see that. You don't see that with Zach. Well, he's not seeing ghosts. He got right back up and kept slinging and kept going and kept getting after it. He's got Zach has got some Brett Favre-ish, young Brett Favre in him. That's who he kind of reminds me of.
You know what?
I like his mental makeup a lot better than what I did with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold just was kind of like, okay, kind of like the bully punched him in the face, and he was like, here, take my money. Zach is like, oh, you want to take my money? Come on, let's see what you got.
Look at what he went through, dude. He's playing horrible. He couldn't complete basic passes. He gets hurt. He gets benched, and he watches everybody else have success in the offense to the point where fans are like, we want to play Mike White instead of you. He faces all of that, comes back, still doesn't play that well, and then starts getting better week in and week out. And it's like, you know what? That shows you a lot, dude, especially in this market with this media and this fan base. He faced it all, dude, in his first year.
And then
every facet of it.
And then who's the offensive coordinator that they took him? They made him sit up in the press box. Once he sat up there, that helped too. Because that Mike White game. If he had got another couple of wins there, who knows? Because I remember I called in on the show and I said, hey guys, you know what? If Mike White wins a couple of games, we might have a little quarterback controversy.
Dude, I was in. I'm like, play the hot hand.
Josh Johnson played really good in the Colts game too.
Yep.
But that was the wake up call for Zach. And he responded. He played his ass off, especially that Tampa Bay game. Played his ass off.
But see, I think he got a lot of respect from a lot of people because he faced so much adversity his rookie year, dude. Like between the injury, getting beat up. I mean, he was getting hit. The veterans were looking at him like on the ground, like, hey, get up, kid. Like he earned his stripes. And now it's like you see he's taking on a leadership role in the offseason. He's hanging out with his players. He's flying all across the country to do stuff. but I think he has that. He's just working hard, dude. He's not making any headlines. He's not doing shit. He's just working, and he wants it. And like that look in his eye, you can see. He's like, you know what?
Exactly.
He has that. He has a little bit of arrogance to him, which I love.
Yes.
Like that's what you need, especially around here, man.
Like I said earlier, he had that look in his eye that Sanchez had the first couple of years. He had that moxie that the young Brett Favre had. Yep. But again, it was something that to me Sam Darnold never had.
Yep. Like and that one touchdown run he had, that long touchdown run he had, where he's going out of bounds and he tucked back in. Like that's the kind of shit.
That's
dude.
The kind of guy. Yeah, that's it.
Yep. That's exactly right. So now you like Wilson, you like the coaching staff, you like Joe Douglas. Give me some of your favorite all-time players.
You got to start with Freeman McNeil.
Oh, good player.
Freeman McNeil to me, Wesley Walker. I mean, like this. Yeah. But there's some other players that people don't remember. I was a big fan of a guy named Kirk Springs. He was the punt returner back in the early 80s. He wore number 21. I was a big fan of Johnny Hector. Mm-hmm. He had a nice career. I was a big fan of Kurt Sohn, Mickey Schuler. You had Marvin Powell. I mean, I can be here for hours telling you, some of the guys. Let's not talk about Brownie Nagel. He was okay. I see another all-timer. Obviously Darrelle Revis. God rest his soul, Dennis Byrd.
Yeah,
Dennis Byrd. Ronnie Lott. The first, the couple of years
he was all right.
Yeah. But he's one of the great safeties of all time.
Yeah.
Mo Lewis, obviously. Sean Ellis.
Yep.
DeBrickashaw, Mangold, Revis, David Harris. Even Decker the little bit. He was good. Chad Pennington. Keyshawn was a favorite of mine, and so was Wayne Corbett.
Yep.
So we like I said, 40 years. I can go on and on and on.
So then, if you had to describe like what is life like being a Jets fan? How would you describe it?
Painful. I'll put it to you like this. On my bucket list, before I leave this earth, I want to see the Jets win multiple Super Bowls.
Multiple?
I didn't stutter. Multiple.
One.
Multiple. I know. You got to get one to get the rep, but multiple. I don't want to be gone and Dad. What about seeing the Super Bowl in heaven? I don't want angels around me. I want real people. I want some sinners like me that are Jets fans watching. And if they win that first Super Bowl, I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna lie. I will literally cry.
Can you imagine that party?
I watch videos of I've been watching YouTube videos of when the Eagles won their Super Bowl.
Yep.
And all those Eagle fans they were literally crying. And I said, and even Bengals fans, I was watching some, they got to the Super Bowl, some of those Bengal fans crying. I said, yeah, the Jets win the Super Bowl. That's going to be me right there, bawling.
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting for 40 years. Now, I'm about to move to Kansas City later this year. My dream would be Jets at Kansas City, AFC title game. I don't care what I got to do. I don't care if I got to get a drone and parachute myself to the top of Arrowhead Stadium and watch it in a Speedo, but you better believe I'm going to be at that AFC championship game.
Come on, man. That game's got to be at MetLife, man. We need a home championship game.
Listen, I know, but, just from my egotistical geographic, I want to go to Kansas City and watch it. Listen, I don't care where it is. I just want to see the Jets win some Super Bowls, like I said, before I leave this earth. That's really what's left on my bucket list at this point.
Dude, I'm with you, man. We've seen so much, but it's like we're just due. I think like the football gods at some point owe us because all the pain and suffering, all the nonsense we've dealt with, all the bad luck, bad breaks, bad players, bad coaches. I mean,
I tell people being a Jets fan is like a marriage. There's stuff about your spouse you don't like, and you're like, okay, she's getting better at it. She's getting better. Okay, she's turned the corner, and then start over again. That's kind of what being a Jets fan is. They'll have those 2-3 good years, like, okay, yeah, they're there, like, and then what happens? 3-13 for about 4 or 5 years in a row. Then 5-11 and 4-13. That's what being a Jets fan. It's like a marriage. Dude, and I'm 40 years in, and I'm not going anywhere now. It's cheaper to keep her now.
That's outstanding. So, Kevin, are you on social media or anything like that? Are you on Twitter?
No, I don't have a Twitter. I have a Facebook and I have Instagram, but Twitter's not. And I don't have TikTok. That's not something.
No, if you want to give out your information, if people want to follow you or check
yes,
you out.
you can follow me on Instagram on Smooth Operator 75.
Am I following you? I gotta follow you.
I'm not sure.
Smooth Operator 75.
And you said you train MMA, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
No kidding.
Yes, I've been doing it for a little over 2 years. I'm almost at blue belt now, but
Good
that
for you,
when you do martial arts in your 40s, it's way different than you're kicking yourself all the time. Man, I wish I'd done it when I was 20. Oh my god, because your body just doesn't react the way it used to. But unfortunately, back in the 90s, there wasn't the exposure.
Nope.
Now that was back then there wasn't the exposure. Now you have jiu-jitsu schools just everywhere. Whereas back in the 80s and the 90s, you didn't really see that. But
no, there's like tournaments everywhere.
It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, though.
Dude, and the cool thing is like there's tournaments everywhere. You can train at any age. It's all about respect.
Yeah, right back here. I've got some medals from.
Look at you showing off.
Yeah, I got a gold. I got 3 silvers and 2 bronzes.
Look at you.
Yeah. So I've loved the competition part.
I'm not messing with you, man. Shit.
Yeah. Well, I know you're further along than I am, so
I'm a striker, man. I don't. Okay. I have takedown defense. I know enough to like stay on my feet, but I'm a boxer, kickboxer. I love this.
Okay. So if I get you on the ground, you're done.
I'm done. I am done.
Okay.
It was funny because we had like an intro to because all the guys that they're dying to get me on the ground, like they want me to roll and stuff like that.
Right.
So we had like an intro to MMA, like takedowns. So I'm like, all right, I can kind of hang my own. They took me down, dude. It had pinned me against the fence, and I couldn't get up for like 5 minutes. And like, get up. And like your back's getting cut in the fence because you're just getting grounded. And I tried to escape out the back. They'd slam me back down. I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, I'm out. Like,
you're done with that.
But it's what it is though. A friend of mine just competed at Naga about 3 weeks ago. I went there for about an hour and checked out. Dude, it is so intense. And this skill level, it's such a high level sport, man. There's so much there's so much skill involved in that, man.
Yeah, yes, it is. And just here you go. Here's my gold medal right here from American Grappling Federation.
Look at you,
right there. The thing that I really enjoy as a combat veteran, I was in Iraq in 2003, and so that's really helped me as far as dealing with the PTSD and all that. And the thing about it, when you're on the mat, and this from you doing MMA, when you're rolling with somebody, your concentration has to be right there. Yeah. There's no whatever bullshit happened at work, whatever bullshit happened outside, it doesn't matter because you've got a guy across from you that's trying to choke you and trying to rip your arm off from you. And I love it because those higher belts, they're not all like stuck up or anything like that.
Yeah.
They'll pull you aside and they'll tell you, hey, I did this, you did this, and I reacted this way, and that's why I got you here. And then now that I'm almost a blue belt, I'm passing that knowledge over to the new white belts. And I'm telling them, listen, you gotta persevere. There's going to be days when you feel like you're kicking everybody's ass. Yep. And then there's going to be days when you're going to be tapping out 8 to 10 times, but you got to push through those days. And eventually you'll get to whatever goals you want to get to.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point because you're absolutely right, man. Like you can't be standing in front of somebody and be half into it, like your mind thinking about work or outside, because you're gonna be up. You're gonna be eating all kinds of. There's so much like strategy, technique, and focus and thought. Like you gotta be like almost 2 steps ahead of your opponent. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, or he changed his footwork, he changed this, he changed his stance. Like, there's so many things you gotta worry about. You can't. Yeah. You gotta be into it.
One of the things that's been working for me, for my jiu-jitsu people that might watch this video, when you're in bottom, you it's easy to panic because you got that guy on top, you got you in mountain side control and all that. Now I've gotten to where I'm calm. And I just kind of wait for him to make the move, and then I'll try to do my count. But the concentration level required has to be when you're on that mat has to be 100%. You can't worry about your kids pissing you off. You can't worry about what happened at work. Because I've caught myself thinking about work and stuff, and then next thing you know, I'm in a rear naked choke and all that.
Yep.
Whereas when you got I do better when I have that total concentration. And then in those tournaments, you think you need to concentrate in your regular class. In those tournaments,
it's wild.
It's the level of concentration is so much higher. One of the things I've learned is you think there's like 10,000 people watching you in those tournaments. The only people that are really watching you are the coaches and the family members of the two combatants. There ain't nobody else. Everybody's just kind of running around, but you get so caught up and you just get so like,
yeah.
But I love it. It's been a great experience. And like I said, especially as a combat vet, you got a lot of combat vets.
Yep.
And you have a lot of law enforcement.
Yeah.
That do, and I think they should make it mandatory. You could really, I'm not going to get into politics and police brutality and anything like that. But I think you could really curb a lot of the police brutality going on if they have a basic knowledge of just taking them down and just say, okay,
the holds. Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's a phenomenal sport, man. It does so much for so many. It's not what you see on TV with all the blood and everything like that. There's so much good aspects of the sport, man. We're just discipline and in terms of conditioning too. Like you get in phenomenal shape, man. You're just like with all the rolling and everything else.
I love it because I'm gonna be 47 here in November, and to sit there and be able to hang with those 20, 21, 22 year olds, and a couple of them, they're on their hands and knees like, and I'm over here like, hey, whatever, dude.
I'm in the same boat, man.
And you know what? And I don't know how old you are, but when you're in your 40s, it feels good to be able to, hey, yeah, I can hang in there with guys half my age.
Absolutely, and it's like you become more savvy, you become smarter, you learn all the tricks to trade. Well, first of all, Kevin, thank you for your service, man. By the way, thank you very much for that. That's awesome. Congratulations on all your awards. I'm impressed, man. Like you choked me out or something.
No, I'm not. You're not a Dolphins fan, so don't worry.
So smooth.
And don't wear an AJ Dewey jersey either. Oof, you're really gonna get it.
Smooth Operator 75, right?
Yes,
on Instagram. All right, cool. Well, thank you for joining me, man. Any final comments you want to add to this?
No, I'm just glad. I've been watching your show for about 3-4 years. I remember years ago I called in and I gave all the Jets heartbreak, and I thought you guys were going to ban me. So thank you for that. I was given every year one of the heartbreaking fourth quarter chokes that the Jets were doing. But hey, if you ever want me on the show again, don't hesitate to reach out. This has been fun.
I had a blast, man. This is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So feel free to call in. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your support. And I'll talk to you next time.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's hit this.